Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to the Hughes Corasomi Substack channel. And we have a very interesting guest today, Dustin Cormier, who is an astrologer, a tropical Vedic astrologer. He's going to explain that to us, and a musician, a poet, a dreamer, philosopher, a real Renaissance man. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Hugh. I'm very happy to be here with you, my friend. Thanks for the invite.
My pleasure. It's going to be a really interesting conversation. It's going to be about half an hour. We're going to try to trim it, even though we could probably talk for hours, but
Mhm.
to make it a little bit more enticing, to grab a delicious beverage and sit down and watch the whole thing in one sitting, we'll say about half an hour, slightly more perhaps. So here's the old Tibetan bowl just to set the tone. So,
Aho.
Dustin, so yeah, so tell us a little bit about, first of all, how you became interested in astrology, this amazing art and science combined,
Mhm.
um, which was once very, very popular in antiquity, the Middle Ages, Greece, Rome, the Arab, Chinese also fell out of
Mhm.
uh, favor, perhaps, when astronomy and astrology parted ways, science and
Mhm.
religion, so to speak. But now things are coming back together. And
Mhm.
so astrology is experiencing a newfound popularity and interest, and
Renaissance.
a renaissance. Exactly. There you go. It's like a synergy of various systems now. And so, what piqued your curiosity? When did you start, and how?
Well, thank you for asking, Hugh. The in today's time, things are certainly with technology, of course, everything can become quite the soup with all these different traditions combining together. And it can be for a good thing and a bad thing. But I have hopes for it. I got Saturn in Aquarius. I'm happy to dance the Aquarian technology dance.
Uh,
So I got into astrology, funny enough, in order to try and disprove it, actually.
uh,
I read the classic book. It's one of my favorites. It's called Autobiography of a Yogi.
oh yes, Paramahansa Yoga.
Yes, I'm a huge fan of Yogananda, of Kriya Yoga,
Yeah.
and that's my mainstay of my own personal practice. Now, in this book, it's funny because Yogananda's guru, his teacher, was actually a Jyotishi, which is what we call the Indian word for an astrologer. Jyoti means light. And of
Ah,
course, the light comes from the sun, but it also comes from within us.
right.
So an astrologer is one who deals in the divine light, the inner light.
Mhm.
And so, the light of awareness, which
Right.
can only come by conquering non-awareness, which is, of course, an alchemy through the colors of the light spectrum.
Yes.
Now, in Yogananda's book, Yogananda said his guru was an astrologer, a Jyotishi. And Yogananda wanted to, his part of the whole thing with Yogananda is that we are the causal body, which is beyond the astral body. So Yogananda was not against astrology, but he was the person who was an extension of his guru, who took matters of karma into his own hands through yoga and through consciousness. He often, one of the things he says in his book is that I burn the seeds of my karma with the fire of my devotion. And he took his kundli, his astrology chart, and he burned it in a fire. And he went without astrology,
Yeah.
which his guru just was like, okay, you do your own thing, kiddo.
Right.
But his guru was still an astrologer. Now, with this dichotomy, I was very intrigued by it. And I'm a very scientific minded person. I'm a rational person.
Yeah.
Amongst mystics, I come off very skeptical.
Right.
Amongst skeptics, I come off as a mystical,
Hmm.
nuts, crazy,
Right.
intuitive guy.
So you're like a double agent. You go
For
back and forth,
sure.
right?
For sure. I'm a reflector in human design, so I'm often playing
Oh,
on
yes,
the
right.
sides of the moment.
Yeah.
Now, so I wanted to disprove astrology. So I started reading books like this has got to be stupid. You know, this Scorpio thing, whatever. I got the sun in Scorpio. I started reading books about it and going, okay, whoa, this is a little bit more this is a little bit more real to my experience than I thought it ever possibly
Uh-huh.
could be.
So you
And that's
were
what got me into it.
reading and learning things that were resonant with your reality,
Correct. Most certainly.
confirmations about the validity. Yeah,
hmm And
right.
then once I read a few things, I was in. I was in. I had to, my scientific mind is what actually brought me to astrology, which is I think a cool wink for people, you know. Sometimes the world of esoteric fate and mysticism is not so muddy. You just got to dig your hands in and experience the data for
Yes,
yourself.
yes. I find a lot of people, including myself, I guess it's part of the human experience. We fear is the mother of all no emotions, and that instinct that we have for survival, for life, and anything that can threaten our survival, including the survival of our ego, can be a
Mm-hmm.
source of anxiety and so on. But that when people don't know something, and if there tends to be already some judgment and prejudice against it, people will just accept that negativity without having dived into the pond, as you say. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
I always encourage people to try something out, make it
Mm-hmm.
experiential, make it personal. And there are many ways to get into the pond. You can tiptoe or dive in, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
just wet your body with a few drops
Mm-hmm.
to begin with. So, so for those who don't know a thing about astrology and maybe have inherited some of those prejudices that it's a fake science and a bunch of gobbledygook and so on,
Mm-hmm.
like the person that sees in the newspaper, the horoscope and says, well, that could apply to anybody, which
Mm-hmm.
is often true.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how can you maybe give someone like that a little taste of what a true investigation, a true independent search into the science and art of astrology might be like?
It's a good question, Hugh. You know, I think I would say one of the ways that can probably really get you the gong, bwang, uh, is to go to an astrologer. You know, that can be a tricky thing though, because it's finding a good astrologer is a little bit like finding a good counselor and a good psychologist. You can go to the best psychologist out there. Everyone says he's heralded as the best. This is the
Right.
guy. This is the girl. This is the one that no matter what, you're going to get a good thing out of. You pay the whatever their price is, but you find that there's not a resonance. You know, astrology is a bit like that, where you will find that it's a science as well as an art. And you need to find if you were to seek through this route, you find an astrologer who vibrates, resonates with you. And then that way you get a taste for yourself of somebody who's been trained and experienced in the matter so that they're not just going to tell you what you can read by yourself on Google. Oh, you got Mercury and Gemini, that means this. You got Mars and Capricorn, that means this. You
The
want
old
somebody who can pull it all together.
cookie cutter approach, as
Right,
we
the
call it.
the
Yeah.
cookbook approach,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? So it'd be nice to if you could find an astrologer who you can kind of feel out and to get the experience of being like, wow, this person has seen everything that I am and shown me a few things that nobody could ever possibly see how the light is shining down the hallway of my destiny. I can
Mhm.
see it, I can feel it, I
Mhm.
get how they get it and why do
Mhm.
they get it. That would give you you're reading a book, you read a little bit into chapter five, and it's like, oh, okay, wow, now I've got to read this book, right? Because, you know, at the same time, astrology, you've just be mindful because astrology, like so many healing modalities, there's plenty of people out here who are understandably, making a buck off of it. We spend, especially in today's time, there was a time when astrologers in India or in the Greek times, people would come, they'd feed the astrologer because you're doing something important, and then the astrologer wouldn't have to get paid. They would do it as a community service for their own
Uh-huh.
karma. These days, I'm not going to make a living putting in all the effort that I do into counseling and astrology. I'm not going to survive that way. So we charge money nowadays. And that being the case, there are plenty of people who you're going to pay money to who you're not going to get. You're going to have a bit of a sour taste because that I spent money on this thing and it was stupid and it wasn't it. Have a bit of faith, explore it yourself, learn the language enough so you can see when someone else speaks your language.
Yes.
Eventually you can find the tether if it's your destiny
Mhm.
to walk the path of astrology.
That's good advice. To perhaps for those who are a bit skeptical, like you are yourself, and your
Mhm.
approach was a skeptical approach,
Mhm.
people can keep that at hand.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I think mindfulness is the key word. If
Mhm.
people are mindful of their own experience, their physical sensations, the feelings, emotions, and images,
Mhm.
associations that come up, then that will be their teacher, their guru, which is our theme today, right? The Jupiter and
Beautiful.
the guru, the teacher archetype, that can teach them if they're on the right path or not, or the good red road, as our indigenous friends say.
Oh, cool.
So rather than just accepting a whole template, a whole philosophy, uh, one step at a time. It's
Right.
like
And
going into
especially
the water, yeah, and then checking in
Mhm.
with oneself. How does that feel? Does that resonate with what I already know, or does it make me curious? Does it make me afraid? Does it corroborate something that I was already suspecting?
Mm. Mm. I
Okay.
love that, Hugh. That's you always have a way of you have a way of acting from the heart and thinking from the heart, and that's why I love talking with you because I've got Jupiter in Virgo. I can come off as very cerebral, but I love that you cut right to the heart of matters. You always say to listen if it feels good in your body. And you are, in so many ways, you're a guru to me. I like to find gurus in everybody who has something to teach me. And you always have lots to teach me when it comes to when something feels good in my body. And I
Yes.
appreciate that from you.
Well, thank you. That's nice to hear. In my own chart, I don't have any Earth, at least among the major planets. So lots of fire and air and lots of water too.
Hmm.
So there's a part of me that's the grass is always greener, or the missing experience, as we say in Hakomi. So I'm always seeking out. I
Mm.
studied massage and body work, and then Hakomi somatic mindfulness psychotherapy, and then the Tibetan Buddhist breathing, somatic breathing meditation. So bit by bit, I'm trying to bring in some of that earthiness that I lack. And
Hmm. It's funny how astrology can help us reflect and compensate for what we lack in this way,
exactly, yes,
especially through that theme of Jupiter. I'm happy to talk about Jupiter. It's a very
yeah,
important planet in
go for
Vedic
it.
astrology.
You're the guru today, so hold
Well,
forth. You have a
thank you
lot
for
of
saying
wisdom, a
that,
lot.
Hugh.
Yeah, and maybe along the way you can explicate for us what the tropical Vedic is. Uh,
That's a perfect, Hugh. I'd love to do so.
okay,
So just
go for
for
it.
everybody who's watching, I'm a Westerner. I'm in Canada. Here in Toronto, Ontario. I've never been to India. I plan to eventually. I'm 33 years old, turning 34. I'm born in 1991.
Mhm.
And so I am somebody who is obsessed with all things Indian. The India, being such a crucible of civilization, has so much history. In particular, I'm obsessed with yoga, the language of yoga, the roots of Sanskrit, the workings of Patanjali, and everything that has come from that tradition. I have been for a long time. One of the reasons is my whole route was that I got interested in psychedelics, probably around 2011, 2012. I was exploring what that dimension of life had to offer. And that counterculture blends in with the 60s counterculture. I was very much a hippie type person. I got into the Beatles. The Beatles
Yeah.
were all about Maharishi and yoga. And this is what tapped me into this world. Of course, with the psychedelic medicines, they can give you they can be an interesting little wink, but you've got to explore what they're winking at, you know? So for me, the world of yoga and the world of consciousness is I have to thank the medicine for bringing me into that. But as I often say, there's the maestro, which is like a medicine teacher. There's maestro, there's medicine, and then there's the mystic.
Mhm.
The maestro is in service to the medicine is in service to the mystic. And the mystic is something that you don't need the maestro or the medicine for. It's inside of everybody.
Mhm.
So this is how I got into mysticism and this idea of a world that's coming out from under our feet. Now, what brought me through, I was obsessed with Western astrology, and those are my roots. But eventually, my interests in yoga and Indian philosophy mixed with my desire to learn about astrology. And I found out that there's a whole Vedic tradition of astrology. Vedic is correlated with Indian. Although technically Vedic, we could almost call it something that's eternal. The word almost relates a little bit with vita, vitality. So we could say India just happened to be the place where this thing was uncovered. But really, the Veda is eternal, we could almost say. So Vedic, the Vedic world relates very strongly to Indian roots. Now, at some point in my journey, I discovered that there is something called Vedic astrology, and it's the Indian tradition. Now, with the Indian people, it happens to be the case that they are very big on sound. In the West, we were really big on writing things down on paper, and in the Western tradition, lots of things were kept, but you know, you got it. You know, I'm a notebook guy myself. Uh, the Mars is about the eyes. You know, writing is something that is more of a, we would almost call it more of a Mars thing, possibly a Mercury thing. Uh, and lots of the Western books got burned throughout history. The Indian people are known for having been very disciplinary about reiterating mantras, stotras. The student of a guru would memorize like the Vedas, you know, like the whole thing. Sometimes they didn't even know exactly what they're saying. They're just going through the Sanskrit and memorizing it. And you can't burn sound. That's why a lot of the things in the Indian tradition have survived these book burnings and these fires and all of these things. So the Indian tradition, of course, each tradition has something that they bring to the world. The now Vedic astrology, one thing that's a little bit funny when you get into Vedic astrology, there's something called the tropical sidereal debate. It's what people often say nowadays is the stars are different from they were 2,000 years ago.
Right.
Now, we as what's called tropical astrologers, our astrology is created from the equinoxes and the solstices, which
Right.
actually has less to do with the constellations, the stars, and more to do with the relationship of Earth and the sun.
Yes.
So, tropos means the turning of the sun,
Mhm.
meaning after summer solstice, the sun appears to turn in the
Yes.
sky from Earth's perspective. It begins to move southward, and then on the winter solstice, the sun begins to turn northward.
Yeah.
So that's the tropos, the turning of the sun, which is a calendar-based astrology. It's not, actually has nothing to do with the stars. The stars have moved, but the original calendar has always been a calendar-based astrology, as I would like to call it. Now, there are a lot of people in the Indian tradition, specifically India, who understand it to be related to the constellations, to be related to the stars. When you say Vedic astrology, Indian astrology, most people think it's star-based, but I am what's called a tropical Vedic astrologer, which is taking the Western calendar style and using Indian philosophy in it, the
When
Vedic stuff.
you say calendar, you're not referring to the Gregorian calendar where New Year's Day is January 1st, but the Earth, the nature calendar, right, with
You
the
got it.
equinoxes and the solstices as the turning points. Yeah.
You got it, Hugh.
Okay.
That's an excellent point to make, right? The calendar being essentially that, March 21st has always
Right.
been March 21st for us.
Yes.
The sun in the northern hemisphere coming up. Really, it's that the days and nights are equal at that point, right?
Yes.
We say that the sun is on the solar plexus chakra and
Hmm.
is moving upward
Yes.
from Aries from
Right.
that point. So that's what creates the zodiac for us. So for those who are watching and this might be some very astronomical stuff for those watching. To pull it all together, I'm someone who uses tropical measurements, but I interpret it through Indian style. There's certain things that the Indian people talk about, the planets, for example,
Right.
that are not the same in the West. And Jupiter, I love talking about Jupiter because Jupiter is a great example where the Indian people are really big on the concept of guru.
Right.
And guru for them, in fact, in Sanskrit, each of the planets has a name. Venus is Shukra, which relates to sugar. Venus is the
Mm.
sweetness that
Mm.
pulls us into life.
Yeah.
Mercury is Buddhi, which
Mm.
relates to a certain clarity beyond my preferences. Buddha, like
Mind.
the Buddha
Mind.
goes, right?
The light of the mind. Yeah. And the
You got
mind
it.
is like the messenger of the gods between the
It's
spiritual world and
of the
the
sun.
intellect and
You
the
got
emotions.
it.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
got it. So Mercury is very, very special. All of these planets, we could talk about them all being very special. Now, Jupiter, the Sanskrit word which we use to describe Jupiter is guru. And it comes from the root gu, which basically means like dense
Yes.
and heavy.
Uh-huh.
Now, one of the reasons that this is called this, it's amazing that the Indian people are so intuitive in many ways. There's a heaviness to Jupiter. And in fact, astronomically, for those just interested, we say that the sun is the center of the galaxy and the sun is what everything revolves around.
Consider
That's
the
because we're
solar
all a king.
system, not the
I'm so,
galaxy.
Thank you, Hugh. Thank you for correcting me there. You're right. Our solar system.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, Hugh. So the sun is the center, and we are kings. We are sovereign units that the world revolves around our will. Now, what's interesting is that what we teach in the Vedic concept is that Jupiter as guru, Jupiter actually pulls on the sun's barycenter. The sun has its own little spin, and
Right.
this spin of around its center actually gets yanked on by Jupiter.
Yeah.
So they're almost like if you had a ball on a string attached to another ball on a string. You threw them, they're both
Right.
pulling each other forward,
Uh-huh.
right? And yanking each other. So this is why we say if the sun is us, Jupiter is this other thing that's yanking us.
And that's
And
because of
this, go ahead
its
there, Hugh.
size and mass,
You got it.
because it's gigantic. I mean, I've heard it.
Yes.
Some traditions even call it a second sun in
You
our
got it.
solar system. Yeah.
You got it. Yeah. And it's guru, it's heavy.
Yeah.
But it's also it's a second part of ourselves that's very important. Uh, we we often say that it is the guide that leads us to the sun. And anyone who understands Jupiter as this guru knows that it's what we it's what we convey as our guides. It relates to father, it relates to children, and it's like the wood that we need to use in order to combust the sun of ourselves. And how I often describe it is what people define as the God experience.
Yes.
God is really all of the light of Jyoti. But when we have an experience of the universe knocking on our door, oftentimes this is what I like to describe to people is that God in the universe is speaking to us all the time. Jupiter is the influence of the cosmos knocking on our door. See, we're all making a plan to try to search for God or to search for truth. So we make this plan in front of us. And then we hear this knocking on the back door, dunk, 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 dunk. And we say, "Excuse me, God, I'm looking for you over here. Please, God, don't bother me. I'm trying to find you in front of me." And God is just going dunk, 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 dunk. It's the Jupiter people, especially those who have a good Jupiter in their astrology chart. Uh, but regardless of this, however you define your Jupiter in your chart, for those watching, it's nice to know that we can all invoke this guru. It's a living force inside of all of us that is especially connected to sound. This is why we listen to the Om. That's why we listen to the whole universe is speaking to us through a language. And when we start to think of it as a piece of ourselves that is connected to, like Jupiter, yanking us forward to the highest that we can be, this is how just as humans have evolved, we're almost like, I like to think of Jupiter as this way. You know, a butterfly, before it becomes a butterfly, it's a little larva, it's a little caterpillar. It has a script. It's got an intelligent design where it knows that it's got to go into a cocoon and then it's going to go into a butterfly.
It's
Now,
like
the larva,
the
yeah,
oak tree is within the little acorn lying on the
beautifully
ground in
said.
the fall. Yeah.
Beautifully said. There's something in the genetic data of the seed that already has the pre-programmed script for intelligent life. Now, the oak and the butterfly, they had to evolve through the mysticism of evolution to get to where they are. But the fact that they did, the fact that there was a point where a butterfly would emerge, that is in the song of the cosmos. And humans, with all of our intelligence, the Vedic, all the mystery traditions acknowledge that humanity is a butterfly it's I think therefore I am. The universe wants to have this human experience. And the fact that it did happen and there's an intelligence to it, it's often conveyed that we can call this Jupiter. Jupiter
Yes.
is the inherent force. That's why Zeus, which relates, even though Zeus is an asteroid, as you just described to me, Hugh, Zeus through the Greeks was the king of the Olympiad,
Yeah.
and he related to Jupiter. In the same way, in the Indian tradition, Indra was the king of the gods in the old days, and Indra relates to the lightning bolt, just like Thor on Thor's day,
Yes.
Jupiter's day.
Right.
Jupiter, through the lightning bolt of the spine, relates to the divine intuition that is essentially what we call God, the force of a higher order of evolution
Mhm.
pulling us through the morass, the
Yes.
mud.
So I'm going to jump in if I may.
Please.
Um, so the concept of guru is it's kind of a universal concept.
Mhm.
We're all learning. We're on a learning path. And by the same token, we teach, whether we do it consciously or intentionally or not. So if we're all open to that archetype of the guru, we can see mirrored in every other human being,
Mhm.
even every tree and every animal and every star, some reflection of a part of our truth and reality. So, could you speak a bit about the difference between outer teachers, like in the Indian tradition? There's the guru,
Mhm.
put flowers on their feet, whether it's music or astrology or spirituality or whatever. And then you have the avatars with the great universal teachers, Rama, Krishna, Buddha,
Mhm.
Christ,
Mhm.
Muhammad, and in this day, Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Baha'i faith, beginning
Mhm.
a new 500,000 year Sat Yuga.
Mhm.
So, what about the inner sage? This is what we refer to in the Hakomi method. It's the form of psychotherapy that I practice and teach. That we work with the inner sage or the inner guru, you might say,
Mhm.
within the client who's always been there and knows and loves and is in touch with that universal power. And if we can hear and listen and integrate the information that comes from the inner sage, then we're kind of exemplifying or putting into relationship the guru principle. So, do they both exist? Are they both important? Is one more important than the other?
Hmm.
If you were
That's
to,
a
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question, Hugh. And I like the way you've put it. The guru, as we understand it in the Indian tradition, is it's hola kola. There's a boat going out to sea, and there's no lights. We can't, and it's kind of raining, so you can't see any torches on the other lights. So we out there and go, hola. The other person says cola, and then me and you, we feel each other. The
Right.
guru experience is ola cola. It's
Mm,
it's an inside and an outside. Now, any good guru is gonna be the one saying hola. Hola, anybody out here looking for me?
mm,
And the student comes and says, Cola, I was looking for you. The student is looking for the guru inside themselves, and they find it in the embodiment of the guru that they find. Now, this is a very interesting thing. It's almost, India does things backwards from us, and we can always say lots about it, just like they can say lots about us. India is known to have these traditional Indian marriages where it's done for you. You don't really get to choose in a lot of the Indian culture. It's not so much these days. But for us, it's like, wow, you don't get to choose? That's crazy. But
mm.
for them, there's a synchronicity that they like to
Yes.
experience there.
Would
In
that
the
be
same,
tied to the, excuse me, would that be tied perhaps to the strong Indian belief, not among everyone there, but in reincarnation and karma, destiny?
certainly,
Uh-huh.
certainly.
So
And
even a
they're
guru relationship is sort of all predestined in a certain way.
You got it. You got it. Now, what's interesting is that uh, the guru relationship, though, it is destined in this way. But there's a difference between the guru and the father. The father, the father and the child is also guru.
Yes.
Guru between both of them.
Yeah.
Because especially at the end of life, the child is teaching the father. Once the father becomes older, he starts to become childlike because he's done his work. Now the child is kind of acting as teacher for the father. Now, with a father-son or a father-daughter relationship, you don't get to choose. That's the arranged marriage. You don't get to choose your father. So you got to get used to who this person is. You got to get the most you can out of them. If you have a good Jupiter, we say that you will get something out of your father, which is interesting because imagine two brothers that have the same father. One of them let's say one of them has a good Jupiter, and they get the experience. I got guru out of my father. I was raised well by my father. I got what I needed out of my father, and there was a love between us. He had something to share with me, and I had something to receive from him. You might have the other brother who said, "My father sucked. I
Mhm.
didn't get a good dad like other people do." He's the same father, but it's the person saying, it's the ola cola.
Mhm.
It's the finding each other. The person
Yeah.
has to have it within themselves to
Yes.
seek that type of guidance.
Well, this brings up another point, the authority of the guru or the father. And in
Mm-hmm.
traditional households, of course, and cultures, the father is still the king of the castle,
Mm-hmm.
and the children are supposed to obey the father, even if he may not be the best father.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this directive, to respect of the parents and the father, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the West, this is changing, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's interesting that part of Jupiter, the authority that God has. Zeus was the king of the gods, right? And he had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
power. What he said was law, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Jupiter is related to Sagittarius, right? And
Mm-hmm.
law is one of the areas, and teaching as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I
Certainly.
notice that our time is melting away.
Yes, as it always does
I
here.
think the light of the lightning is coming down is melting the time.
Mm-hmm.
So um, perhaps we could just take a little break
Mm-hmm.
from the words, the pen and the paper, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak, And you have agreed, I didn't have to twist your arm too
Yeah,
tightly,
no, I was happy, buddy.
to share a poem with us or a song because you're a very creative guy, and I've read some of your poetry. Beautiful,
Hmm.
beautiful. I haven't really heard you. I think I did see one video perhaps where you were singing with a band. It was pretty cool too. So,
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah. I was I was in a rock band for a bit there, but I've been doing mostly acoustic stuff. So
yes,
I'm glad we talked. I'm glad we had a good conversation about Guru.
yes.
Jupiter is very important for all of us. Now, Guru and Jupiter still is a creative force inside of us all. So it's nice that you've offered to come into a space where we can experience a little bit of this. There's a lightning to Jupiter. And this lightning can be very creative. So I've been writing lots of poetry for a while. I like to consider this a part of the radiance of my inner lightning bolt. Now, I got lots of literature I'm working on at the moment. I don't know if you know Charles Bukowski. Uh,
Yes, I think
he's
so.
yep. So he's a character.
Podcaster. He
Sorry.
writes. He writes
Yep.
a podcaster kind of thing. Yeah, I've
Oh
read.
no, he's not so sorry. He's not a podcaster, but he's a old poet from he was born like 1920, so he's a pretty
Oh
old
no, no. Sorry, I'm not
Um,
familiar. Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Bukowski was known for writing some really gritty, earthy poetry.
Okay.
And he had Virgo Venus, just like I do.
Mm.
So I've been writing something called the Dirty Virgo Diaries, is what I call it. Now, that's something that has been deeply inspiring to me lately. But that's not what I'm going to share today. But I'm mentioning it because there's so much to go through. The poem I'm reading is coming from a book I'm writing. It's called 108 Meditations on the Non-Dual. And this is going to be one of them. Let's see how it rolls and let's see how it flows.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Eternal Mala of the Heart. The object of music is not to hear it, but to listen. Do you understand the difference? In the same way, the object of these words are not to read them, but to be absorbed. This is the only way to wink at the heart's truth. Not to know, not to store data in a barn, not merely to smell, taste, touch, see, or hear, but to understand, to be absorbed. All the 10,000 things of this world are for the illumination of the seer. And the rest, swaha, give it away, put it in the fire. We all observe the same mountain, but it means something different to every soul. When you look through the eyes of masters, the world looks the same, but the inside is clearer. To understand this, we must first endure the devotional sadhana of self-realization by being absorbed in the true heart. 10,000 books are worth less than dirt if you have not been absorbed by what the words are pointing at. That is my poem that I wanted to share today
It's
that I
very,
had locked and
very
loaded.
beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
And
very
it
much.
and it is a teaching poem as well,
Mm.
right from the
That's how
beginning. Yeah, you're
mhm.
coming across or through as a teacher.
Mm.
It sort of
It's it's
it
got
puts the
a
reader, the listener, or the reader into a place of learning and openness,
hmm. I
right
appreciate
from
you saying that.
right from the second line, I believe. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's a flow from some kind of a teacher to a student,
Yeah.
which is a lot of the spiritual writing that I do has that flavor to it because that's how a lot of spiritual writing was done traditionally and
Mm.
anciently. There was a guru and a student, and the
Yeah.
guru conveyed a path for the student to try out and to follow.
Yeah. So in a
So
way,
that's the
your
flavor of that one.
that's right. So your poetry, one might say, as an attempt to describe it, um, is a kind of a modern um, Veda, Vedic type
Mm,
of transmission of some of those cosmic principles that are within the individual as well as the galaxy
hmm
through words and the sound, the vibration, the frequency of the words. Like when you started to recite, I closed my eyes and I took it in at a much deeper level because I wasn't distracted by your
hmm
image and so on and your movement, but
hmm
it sort of imbue that frequency.
And to
And
feel it.
as Tesla said, Nikolai Tesla, to
Hmm
understand the universe, we study sound,
hmm
frequency, and vibration.
Vibration is such a key point.
Yeah.
It's so easy to not, the whole key of this poem, as well as this consciousness, is to not just receive data, but to be absorbed. And that absorption is a dance. You can't dance in an armchair.
Hmm.
You have to get on your feet and move with the other dancer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So just before we wind down, perhaps you could, I have your chart up, your natal astro chart on my monitor,
hmm
and I'm looking at your Jupiter, the placement of Jupiter in your chart
hmm
and Venus and so on. And
I'm happy to
maybe,
share. I'm
yeah,
always
just
happy to share my chart.
yeah, just talk a little bit about, I don't have to put the chart up necessarily for
Hmm
everybody to see, but it's more for my own benefit
Yeah, for
to
sure.
remember.
hmm
Perhaps you could just talk about how you experience Jupiter, especially as it is located and situated in the sign and the house and the aspects with the other planets in your own circle of light.
I'd love to, and thank you for asking, Q.
Great. Okay.
Now, my Jupiter, it really goes to show you that my Jupiter has some things that in Vedic astrology, uh, there's always Vedic astrology can be very fatalistic, and they say make sure to watch out for when this thing is happening. My Jupiter is with Venus, and Venus and Jupiter, Venus can tend to eat Jupiter. That's one of the reasons, in the same way that you mentioned, that because you've known that that you don't have as much Earth in your chart, you've taken ways to bring the Earth back into your chart. Now, for
Exactly.
me, right, and for me, I've found that Venus can eat my Jupiter. And what that can mean is that there's an enjoyment. The thing is that Jupiter delights anything it touches. And Venus is a very important planet for me. So my Venus is delighted, but my Jupiter is eaten by Venus a little bit. And what that has meant is that it's been important for me to be conscious of how my sexual energy is used. This has
I
been
was
a
just going
big,
to say that sounds
big
pretty
part of my
hot.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that energy for sure. And Venus being peppered up by Jupiter gives me this energy that I've had to be very conscious of
Mhm.
throughout my journey. So I've gone through a long journey of exploring bisexuality, exploring, there's been times in my life where I've been prompted to taste everything that is on the buffet table, even when my
Right.
stomach is full.
Yeah.
That's a very, Jupiter actually works better when it's burning towards a deeper sacrifice than
Yes. Hmm.
taste for its own sake.
Hmm.
Jupiter's a fasting planet. Uh, when I was younger, I got a lot of things like this out. And as time has gone on, I've felt how much of my divine energy I've lost by being this sort of gratuitous way.
Right.
So I'm somebody who has had to compensate for bringing Jupiter back into my life. Now, what's interesting is that I have the moon and Mercury in Sagittarius.
Hold on for a second. Did you say it was okay to put your chart up on
Yeah,
the
of
screen?
course, I'd be happy.
Okay,
I'd be happy to share.
because there's something I'd like to show you too. Something that lies right between Jupiter and Venus in your chart. Um,
I'm always happy to share.
oops.
Such an astrology nerd. I am happy to get any moment that I can to talk the talk and walk the walk.
I know, yeah. There we go. So. Can you see that okay?
I sure can.
And the cursor here moving
Hmm.
around. So everybody, this is Dustin's natal chart. And
Nice to
so,
meet you all.
yeah, it's a map.
Hmm.
And it's created at the exact moment of birth in a particular place, at a particular minute and year and time. So here is Jupiter, which actually is your rising planet, right? The first one
You got it.
past the ascendant. This is the right rising sign here.
You got it.
And here's Venus, which is only 20 degrees away, less than 20 degrees, but notably in the same sign, and actually at what we call anaretic, the last degree, the last few minutes of a degree of Virgo before plunging into the Aries point and Libra.
Hmm. Hmm.
So one thing, just based on what you were talking about, the Venus, the potential for Venus to eat up Jupiter and a bit of a contest there, and
Hmm.
sacrifice and sexuality, and that I work with centaurs, which the
Hmm.
first one was Chiron, discovered in 1977, and there's another named centaur called Hylinom, which interestingly enough lies exactly between the midpoint between your Jupiter and your Venus. So Hylinom was a female centaur, and her lover and partner was Silaris, and he was a great, handsome warrior. Everybody loved him, and everybody loved the couple. They were a power couple. And in a terrible battle, Silaris was killed, and he was lying dead on the ground, and the spear was sticking out of him, and his partner Helena was so overcome with grief and so devoted, couldn't imagine living without him. She threw herself on the sword, the same sword that had killed Solaris, and offered her life as a sacrifice. True devotion. So it's a bit of a gory story, but all of the
Oh, it's
centaurs,
beautiful. And it
yeah,
reminds me of I'm sure there are lessons of, there's a polyamory lesson in here, I'm sure.
exactly. And you mentioned the word sacrifice too, and that's when
Hmm.
I looked at your chart and saw Hylino right there at the midpoint between
Mm.
Jupiter and Venus. So carry on a little bit more. You were
Yeah,
unfolding.
beautiful, Hugh, and I appreciate you. I love doing this with you.
Yeah.
I think it's been important for me in my life through the use of Jupiter to strike a balance between ex enjoying, I've been blessed. They say in the Indian tradition, when two planets are in the same sign, we call it a conjunction, even if they're far away from each other, like my Jupiter and Venus are.
Right.
So I've been under the impression that my Venus is blessed in this way. And I've been blessed with having good people in my life and good partners. I had one partner who was a beautiful woman who was very intelligent, who was like a sort of a tantric woman. We're still very close, and there's no bad blood there or anything like that, just so the audience knows. Where she's a sweetheart in my life. I'm blessed to still be connected with this woman. And she's a tantric person. So she has really done a lot of work with me. I've done a lot of the spiritual Jupiter work with her, kind of lighting the fire, being the masculine, holding space for her when she has self-doubt, all these kinds of things. She's done the feminine spiritual work for me, which is reflecting on my own emotions, on my own emotional cycles, and finding a balance between, for me, finding sacrifice and having a relationship that is conducive to that sacrifice
Yeah.
where I can, it's a relationship for everybody is a log that you don't want to burn, or else it's not going to give you the fire and the light that allows you to do what you want to do. I often see relationships as like, it's really good if you want to learn about Jupiter. I suggest everybody go out and have a fire
Mhm.
and try to either read a book or meditate or focus on doing something while you're having this fire. You'll find that if you're trying to meditate, you got to keep one eye on the log, because if the log burns away completely, then you can't sit and meditate anymore because you're going to get cold. You don't have your fire anymore. But if you focus so much on the fire, on your relationship, on the things that serve you, on your children, on your job, your career, if you focus on all these things, then you can't meditate anymore. This duality is very important to Jupiter, and it's very important in my life because the fire, I love the warmth of the passion of romance, of love, of the fire of Venus. And there are times when I have to sacrifice my spiritual desires and my higher chakra, high horse that I sometimes sit on in relationships, if I'm going to be fair and honest with you. I have to get off that high horse and realize that love is right here with the people that we love. What's tricky for me is when I get off that high horse, I'm so hungry to dig in there that I dig so deeply into the passion that I forget that I'm also a spiritual being with my own destiny.
Mhm.
It's very Jupiter-Venus conjunct.
Yeah, so the Venus in your chart could be the devouring mother or even the devouring anima,
Hmm.
which was
Yeah,
perhaps the part of you that your partner that you mentioned brought out in you. She
for
helped
sure.
that to emerge.
And to see
And
it.
yeah, but it also could be the nurturing feminine and embracing.
I think
Um,
any woman for me is going to be both of those things, which of course is a reflection on myself.
yeah.
I need the nurturing, but I need it so much that I get obsessed with the anima and it devours me. But that's not in her, it's in me. This is
Mhm.
what I've been learning.
It's like the Ouroboros, the snake that keeps eating its own tail, and it creates
Mm,
this beautiful, almost, the torus,
the
Torus,
toroidal. Yeah,
toroidal formation in the heart, and the apparently it's connected with the solar system and even the galaxy, that same geometric. So
essence, yeah.
yeah, unfortunately we do have to wind down. This
Mm.
could be the first of maybe a series. Maybe I'll invite you back someday if you would be so
I'd be
kind as
happy
to.
to, Hugh.
What about sending us off with a little song?
That sounds great, Hugh. Now let's see what I have cooking here. I've been
Yeah,
in the world of words, so it's good for
yeah,
me to always bring myself back to the world of vibrations.
that's right. The right brain.
That's right. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a cue from you. You mentioned to go to this original sound for musicians setting.
Yeah,
So, high fidelity music mode. Let's see how this does. Now, can you still hear me okay?
yeah, good.
All right. Now, this says original sound for musicians is on. So, let's see what we can do here. Now, I have this nice little, it's like a Spanish style guitar. Now, can you hear that okay?
Yes, coming across really well.
Okay. All right. So, this is a song that I wrote quite a long time ago. It's one of the only songs that I've put on Spotify.
Hmm.
I'm going to see if I can find all the notes that I need here. Yep, okay. All right, I think I need what I need here.
Okay, maestro.
So, all right, thank you, my friend. So, I'm going to see what I can play around with here. This is an old song. It's called Golden Dawn. Springtime all on the mountain, my love has come. She pours like rain in the harbor, so soft and warm. A veil dropped in the forest. You remember when the white light of the harbor came to the fen. Then
Bravo.
Whew, thank you. It's been a little while since I've done that one.
I'm wondering if you could send me the lyrics, maybe by email, and
Hmm.
then when I post this interview or conversation up on the Substack, people will be able to read the lyrics because not all of them came through as clearly.
That sounds great.
So
That
they'd be
sounds
able to
great.
enjoy it, just go back and
Yes.
listen to it. Yeah,
Well, thank
great.
you, Hugh. You know, it's funny. A lot of these tunes, when you first write them and they've got a certain way to it. You know, I wanted to try a song that I haven't done for a little while. I got Sagittarius Moon. I like to experiment that way, and I'm glad I
That
got to
was
play with it.
that was lovely. So we've had your ideas, some of your teaching, your poetry, and your music. So you are indeed a Renaissance man, and there are many other aspects of you too that perhaps have not yet come to light for the general public. But speaking of the general public and the masses of humanity, almost 9 billion of us,
Hmm.
teeming and seething on this planet, which is not yet a sacred planet according to esoteric astrology.
Hmm.
Um, Given the moments that we're in, with so much convulsion and
Hmm.
confusion and separation, polarization, fear, anger, um, what does the Jupiter in you have to say to the listeners, at least? And this may go on to YouTube as well and around the
Hmm.
world. Maybe it'll go viral. Who knows?
Hmm.
So, is there a little aphorism or a little bit of wisdom from your inner sage or from your uh, galactic guru
That's a
for all
great
of us?
question, Hugh.
Uh,
I think if I, you know, I often like to say I'm an optimist, not an optometrist. But I am an optimist. And what I would say, you know, I've had many experiences in my life where I've imagined that there are some of us who have had experiences of living in days. In the Indian tradition, we say that there was good days long, long ago in simple cities, simple cultures. There was Satya Yugas, golden ages,
yes.
and the people in those times, uh, you know, you can almost get bored in those times. And the people in those times said, "We're happy to be here, and there will come a time when the world has to go through the dark night of the soul, and when it does, the good times are going to mean something special." It's like any fever dream, anything that is dark that we go through is the moment that life is allowing us to show up as the sun, as the divinity that we all are, and to experience the dark side. But the dark side of the moon and the dark side of reality is a lover. It's a shared experience. Just like when we're in a relationship, it's very satisfying to go through the darkest parts of ourselves with another person. And the earth is giving us a chance to do that with each other. The best way to do it, just like in relationship, is to come from the heart, be honest with yourself, understand the other person, and come into harmony. And you'll find that this dark moment is going to make the light that comes all that much sweeter.
I love that. And I totally agree. Just don't run away, show up, listen deeply,
Be present.
speak authentically, be present, and
Mm-hmm.
honor the moment that we're in, whatever it is. And so we are in a dark moment in many ways. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when the light is the greatest, the shadow is even darker. When the
That's
sun
right.
comes out, we see that. So
That's a great way to put
probably
it, Hugh.
both things are happening.
And
The
I
yin
think
and the
it's an
yang, the
mm-hmm.
eye of the needle.
Mm-hmm. And it's
Well,
an
my friend
important moment
Dustin,
for us.
it really is, yeah. So thank you so much for showing up today and exploring some of these themes. And I hope that our language has not been too astrologistically unintelligible.
Astrologies.
Astrology is, yeah, we tend to get into that. But I think you've done a great job at keeping the dialect pretty understandable,
Hmm.
but speaking of some universal themes or archetypes. And so DustinCormier.com is the
You got it, pal.
website.
Hmm.
And anything else that you'd like me to place at the bottom of the underneath, I'm going to write up a little blog
Hmm. Hmm.
accompanying the video. It's been a long one, actually.
Yeah, it's I love doing anything with you, Hugh. You have such a way of cracking open my heart, getting me out of my head, and I love you for it. I
Well,
think
thank you.
DustinCormier.com is just fine for me.
Okay,
Anyone who's interested, you can also I have a YouTube channel called How to Rock Astrology,
right. Okay, I'll
and
put
that's
that
where
in
you
there too.
find me on my YouTube channel.
Absolutely. Okay, bro. Have a wonderful day and long live Jupiter.
Yes, long Viva la Jupiter for sure. It's been a
Okay.
pleasure to meet you all, and it's been a pleasure to hang out with you as always, Hugh. Thank you for gracing me with your time.
Adiós, hermano.